Hello and welcome to this week's conversation. As you can tell, I'm still getting over a cold virus that I picked up a couple of weeks ago, but I'm feeling much better even though my voice maybe isn't feeling so good right now. I wanted to let you know we've got our good friend Kerry Byrne back on the Cool Grandpa podcast, and we were talking about how working grandparents can use our work environment, the things we do day to day that we may think are boring. We've been doing it for years and there's nothing exciting about it. But to grandchildren, these things that we do are sometimes really kind of interesting and intriguing. So Kerry and I sit down and talk about ways that working grandparents can use our workplace as a connection point for our grandchildren. So you're going to really enjoy this conversation coming up. The next thing I want to talk to you about is my book, My Grandpa's Grandpa, is available for download on Kindle. I'm still waiting for the hardbacks to show up and have those available to be sent out. But in the meantime, if you're interested in reading this great book, go ahead and go on over to Amazon and look for My Grandpa's Grandpa, and you'll be able to download it on Kindle. I will have a link for that in the show notes, and I'm building out some of that information on the webpage as well. The last thing I want to talk to you about and remind you of, if you'd love to support the show, a great way to do it would be to go to buymeacoffee.com/coolgrandpa. And there you can donate a little bit of money that helps offset the cost of this podcast. And I really appreciate that support. Now, Kerry is full of some great ideas and great tips. And remember, Kerry is the leader of the Long Distance Grandparent Society. I'm a member of that, and it's a great community that helps long distance grandparents connect and stay focused on engagement with their grandchildren, even though we live, across the world or a couple of 100 miles away. It doesn't matter. Kerry has got some great information for us. So without further ado, let's jump into this conversation. Hello, and welcome to the Cool Grandpa Podcast. This is your host, Greg Payne, coming at you from Studio 12. This podcast is about being the best possible grandpa you can be, focusing on what it is to be a grandpa and how we can all share that experience together for our grandchildren. Hi, Kerry. Welcome to the Cool Grandpa Podcast. I really enjoy that you're taking time out of your day to sit down with us and talk to us about grandparenting and maybe some of the challenges and opportunities around what we do as working grandparents to stay connected to the grandchildren.
Thank you for having me, Greg. I'm delighted to be here.
One of the things that I really wanted us to dive into is understanding how working grandparents can take advantage of the workplace and our busy schedules, but then still maintain relationships and connections with those grandchildren that might not live next door to us, but we're trying to maintain those long distance relationships.
Yeah, I hear from grandparents who are working and they have different challenges than grandparents who are retired. Although I must say that I also work with and talk to a lot of grandparents who find themselves to be busier now as retirees than they even were when they were in the workforce. But 4 in 10 American grandparents are still in the workforce. So there's over 70 million grandparents in the US, and 4 in 10 are working. And so you're contending with your own busy schedule. For lots of grandparents, there's travel related to your work. And then you're also, some of the challenges are that you have, a limited amount of holiday time. So especially when it's from a distance, that your holiday time becomes grand holiday time. And so I think that, there are really a number of ways that working grandparents can stay connected to their grandchildren. I think like most relationships, it just really requires a very intentional approach to grandparenting. And so I always suggest, and this is for working grandparents or any grandparents, but we're talking about it in the context of working grandparents, but you want to be able to create some connection habits or rituals that become part of your week. And this is really about working on your relationship when you can't be in it. So maybe take one lunch hour a week and use that to do some preparation and planning for connecting with your grandchildren. So if you've got a 9-year-old who's obsessed with soccer, maybe you take Monday after the Premier League is finished and look up all the scores so that you can connect with them about something that they're really interested in. But just take that hour a week to do a little bit of research and to plan out some of the ways that you might connect with your grandchild that week.
Well, and that's a great suggestion, because I think a lot of us as grandparents, as the kids are leaving the nest and moving out and starting their lives, we scale back on some of those types of activities, right? We're not at work and then thinking about soccer practice at 4:30 anymore. We're not thinking in terms of those little ones. But now that we've start to get grandkids, it's like we need to re-engage that thought process into what's going on with the grandkids, how can we connect, and what are some of the things that we can do to take advantage of the situation. Because I think we can look at work as being a way to build bridges so that the grandkids know what we're doing, and it's not just the one-way street of constantly asking the grandkids about their lives. It's sharing our lives with them.
Well, and just coming back to, grandparents have incredible experience in managing and knowing a child's schedule. And I actually think that's still important when you're a grandparent. So if you know that your grandchild has soccer practice on Saturday mornings, and I'm going to stick with soccer because that's the fascination in this household, although baseball is a close second right now. I don't know how we're going to manage that next year. We're already driving around everywhere for soccer. But I think that if you know they have soccer practice, put it in your calendar so that it's something that you can follow up with. So again, yes, coming back to your point about using your own work to generate a little bit of interest about you and your life and your grandchildren, which is really important. I think showing them the work that you do, you can take videos of yourself with your colleagues. You can have your colleagues, depends on how receptive your colleagues will be to this. But if, it's your grandchild's birthday, do a little shout out from the office and give them all some funny glasses to wear and send a video to a younger grandchild as an example. For an older grandchild, you might not, an adult grandchild, you might just eliminate the glasses or still use them because your colleagues are going to look and have a lot more fun singing happy birthday to your grandchild if they have tassels hanging off some sunglasses. So I think that is one way to be able to, show them what you're doing. But then actually, I think showing them the kind of mechanics of what you do at work, that there are, and I mean, you're a working grandparent, you're a working long distance grandparent, Greg. And so I think that there are probably ways that you could bring your grandchildren into your work day in a way that would be really interesting for them.
Well, and I love the suggestions of getting creative with sharing your work experience with them. So many people have interesting jobs. Now, you've been on a job for a while. You don't think that's very interesting anymore. But as somebody that will travel to customer sites, and primarily in my example, I'm in logistics. So I might walk around a 200,000 square foot warehouse where I'm seeing a combination of automated machinery as well as, person-driven machinery, the high-rise forklifts, the little things like that. I think coming back into it, like, wow, an 8-year-old kid would find this incredibly fascinating, so when it's appropriate, maybe report back in what you saw, if you're out seeing things that are unique and putting that hat back on, that vision of what 8-year-olds think is really cool.
I think also an 18-year-old grandchild would think that was pretty cool. So, if you're in high school staring at the same high school walls all day, they love taking in information through video. And so keep it short. This is a TikTok generation where we get like really short videos, but taking a short video, giving them a view into what you're seeing in a day. I mean, it is interesting. I'd love to see the warehouse that you're talking about. Because I haven't spent a lot of time in warehouses, and so you're right. Though when we go to a place day to day, or we're working on something day to day, we think that maybe it's not as interesting because we've been looking at these same areas or places. But you also travel to work, perhaps, and in thinking about, just keep your grandchild top of mind. Like maybe you see a funny bumper sticker. Take a picture of the bumper sticker and send it to them. Saw this on my way to work this morning, thought of you. And, these are kind of one-way communications that you're probably going to get just a little emoji for your teenage grandchildren with phones, or adult grandchildren. But it does let them know that, you might be at work all day, but you're still thinking about them.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's, I think, important to remember to keep these things short, like you said, because I think if it gets too big, too long, then they start to tune out with it. But if you hit them with little videos, little messages, then it keeps the interaction, it keeps the attention going. And it elongates, I think, your communication, because sometimes I think we get on phone calls or Zoom chats or whatnot. We go through, we talk for 20 minutes, and then it's like, okay, I'll run out of things to talk about. But if you keep it just short, I think you can keep that communication going longer, meaning multiple days, if you're on a business trip.
Yeah, definitely. And, if you're going on a business trip, it's like, guess where grandpa is, and taking some kind of video of yourself in the airport as an example. Even in your day-to-day, you could take the video, guess where grandpa is at the manufacturing place. This is for younger grandchildren, but I think that, if you're traveling for work, there are just, there are so many ways that you can use that to connect with grandchildren of all ages. And so it could be just going into the, if you're walking around, the flight's delayed, again, spend that time focused on planning and preparing to connect with your grandchildren. It's just really about implementing, or like having these kind of strategies, habits, rituals. Maybe whenever you go to the airport, like once a year, you kind of look at the top bestsellers of books, even for your adult grandchild. Just pick up a book for them, and while you're at the airport, and send a little video of yourself. I'm going to pop this in the mail when I get back. And I think these are just kind of unique ways to let them know that they're on your mind. If you don't want to buy them a book, then just send them a video of being at the airport and being delayed. For younger grandchildren, of course, showing them anything that's going on in an airport is usually pretty exciting. Get yourself in front of a window where the airplane's coming in. There's grandpa's airplane. I'll be on there for X number of hours. Even taking a selfie of yourself on the airplane. My husband does that and sends that, because my husband travels a lot for work. And the kids love it. And the last trip that he took, he sent them videos about his work day. And they loved that because they felt connected to him during that time.
Well, and when you were talking about the gift shops and some of the touristy things that you sometimes find in airports, I went back to a topic that you've talked about quite a bit, which is snail mail and picking up postcards. I mean, I'm looking everywhere around in my area for postcards to send to my grandchildren. I can't find them anywhere. They're scarce. But those airports, train stations, those types of activities in areas, they've all got some postcards from where you're at. So it doesn't take long to throw a stamp on and write just a couple of sentences and then drop it in the mail for those little ones.
Yeah, and I think make sure that you have their address with you, because I know that for me, when I'm about to send a postcard, I never remember someone's address. And so pop open the notes in your phone, make sure that you have your grandchildren's addresses to send them a postcard. The other thing is that you can take that selfie and turn it into a postcard. I mean, most hotels have a little business center. You don't have to make it complicated. If the postcards are kind of cheesy where you're at, just print out on a piece of printer paper at the hotel, a picture of you wherever you're at, and just send a little note. a few words, this made me think of you, or, saw this and this made me think of you. Maybe you have a grandchild that wants to be a pilot. If that would be pretty convenient for connection. But, there are a multitude of careers that you see when you're traveling and are able to, I think, reflect back to your grandchildren in a variety of ways. But yeah, the snail mail for sure.
Yeah. Well, and with this discussion, I'm reminded of a colleague that I used to work with that would, for his children, his younger children, and this would work for grandparents as well, is if you have like a little stuffed animal or a figurine or something that sometimes you place in the background for your Zoom calls, he would take that and then he would take it with him on the business trips and take a picture of that little figurine on the bed of the hotel or sitting across from him while he's having breakfast. Here's this little figurine with this big breakfast plate in front. Or in Chicago, this bean, which is this big reflective piece of artwork that's downtown. You'd place that there, and then it was sending that back to the kids, and that totally would work for the grandkids if you had like a little favorite car or figurine or something like that. That was an idea that popped into my head.
I love that more than I could even explain, because first of all, A, it lets them know that you're thinking about them wherever you are. B, it's fun and it's playful. And C, makes for awesome mail to send. Could over a period of time make an awesome photo book to share with them about all the places that Stuffy has been, as an example. So yeah, I don't know. That's a wonderful idea. I really like that.
Yeah, and it may feel a little weird at first, guys, when you're pulling this out, but at the same time, I think the reaction that you're going to get is going to be worth it. And once you do it, and if people ask you what's going on, I've never had anybody, give you weird responses or something. Once they tell them like, oh, this is for my grandkid and they love this, and then it's always like, oh, that's awesome. And people will even participate in it.
I think they will too. And I have to say, I want to say like 8 out of 10 times when I get onto an airplane, I am sat beside a grandparent. I don't know if it's just because I'm in this business or if the universe is just bringing these people to me, but there are tons of grandparents out there traveling and, can generally, I'd be interested if somebody was taking a funny picture with a figurine. So yeah, I think it is though about stepping outside your comfort zone, perhaps, or just this kind of willingness to be playful, even though you might be in a serious work environment. It's probably going to be good for your own mood to do something like that as well. I think you're really able to also, one of the things if you're at work and maybe you're not traveling for work, is to show your grandchildren that they are kind of at your workplace. So, having a photo of them on your desk is one thing and it's wonderful, but let them know that photo is there. Take a picture of how they sit on your desk, pride of place. And, perhaps it was a drawing that they did, that they created for you, even if they're, 10 now and they did it when they were 5, and you still have it on your desk, or, show them that you have photos in your wallet and that, showed somebody these like really cute photos of you today, and just other ways to express that they are part of your day. Even though you're at a distance, they're very much on your mind and that they are part of your day.
Oh, that's a good suggestion. And I like the idea too that, you can even use that to say, oh, I need to get an updated picture of you, or can you draw me something else? Here's the drawing that I currently have on my desk. Could you draw me, something else, or draw me a Halloween? We're doing this around Halloween. Could you draw me a pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern and I'll put it up here? Something along those lines.
I love that idea. You could have one empty frame, like, oh, I just need one thing to go in this frame, and, see what happens from that.
Sure. One thing I've been thinking about as we're getting ready for this, and an idea, and I'd love to get your input on it, is if you're an office that has a bring your child to work day and they are giving out, sometimes I've seen t-shirts and different little knickknacks. Typically it's what does marketing have in a box somewhere, But, one thing I think grandparents could do is, ask the folks, could I get a t-shirt for my grandson or a granddaughter? Could I get some of these materials? And then being able to send those out as a little bit of a care package or a thinking of you package. And so it ties them in with your place of work and what you do. And then it gives them a reminder, even if they use it as a smock for finger painting at school, something along those lines. If it's going on at work, why not take advantage of it?
I completely agree. I think that, and maybe some employers do this, but bring your grandkids to work day. 4 and 10 grandparents are in the workforce, then we should even be thinking about things like that. As employers should be thinking about things like that. I think even just a quick video chat, or a video showing them, like, it's bring your kids to work, but your mommy didn't want to come, so or your mommy was your mommy used to come to work with me, like tying it back to something that when you were a parent. And I think, sure, collect the merch, collect the merchandise and send it to them.
Absolutely. I think all of these little things just create those little connection points and those little things that you can talk about when you eventually go on. I keep going on site. That's the old business word. But, when you're present, then you have all these little connection points that you've already, sent to them, and you've prepared for that visit for something else to talk about, for them to ask you questions. Hey, what's
even if you're not on site, you can just use careers as a topic to talk to your grandchildren about. And so, the famous question for little kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that changes from like Spider-Man to, more significant careers when they realize that might not be the best possibility. But you likely have a network that you can tap into. So, if your grandchild, wants to work with a not-for-profit one day, maybe they're really interested in climate change. And so put it out to your networks. Would anyone be willing to talk to my grandchild about this career? And so I think that there are, at work, we have powerful networks that we can help introduce our grandchildren. Like, maybe there is somebody in your network who would be willing to have a chat with a grandchild who's trying to decide on a particular career. And, again, that brings them into work. It focuses the questions around career, because when kids are kind of like, 17, they're really like, these are the things that they need to be thinking about. And well into your 20s, you're still considering, is this really what I want to be doing? And so I think opening conversations up about careers, for little ones, you can ask them questions about different jobs that they know about, or different jobs that people have. Like, what do teachers do all day? Just an example of how you can talk about and use the topic of careers to talk to your grandchildren, no matter what age they are. So if they want to be a veterinarian, and this could be like your 5-year-old granddaughter might want to be a veterinarian, and your 22-year-old granddaughter might want to be a veterinarian. If you see something interesting about veterinarians in the news, there's an article about them, then print that out and send it to them. Because I think that, and put some questions in the margins about veterinarians.
Oh, that's great advice. Now, Kerry, we've been chatting for a little bit. Is there anything around working grandparents or staying connected at a distance that you would love to share?
I think what I hear from working grandparents probably most often is, I could be doing a little more to stay connected, or this sort of feeling of like, oh, I should be doing a little more. And I think that, once you kind of carve out that hour a week, you'll realize that you can get a lot accomplished on the connection front in a short period of time. I know that, if you're a working grandparent, then you have adult children who probably still need you emotionally in some way. And then you potentially have quite young grandchildren. And so I think it is really, let's end where we began and being intentional about carving out time for them. So if they lived close by, you might see them on Saturday mornings or Sunday evenings, like who knows, or you might go to soccer practice and you can't do those things, but still take that time and spend it on your long distance grandchildren. So it's not necessarily money that I'm saying to spend on them. It's really spending your time and attention on the relationship.
Oh, that's great information and great advice. Now, Kerry, where can people find you and how can they get connected with you and your group?
So you can just come on to my website, thelongdistancegrandparent.com. And I have tons of blogs that will help you in connecting with grandchildren of all ages. I'm also the leader of something called the Long Distance Grandparent Society. This is an online monthly membership for grandparents who have grandchildren ages 2 to 10. And it's really an online kind of digital subscription box plus support. And it's a wonderful community of grandparents who come together and support one another. But also in these monthly packs that I send out, there are tons of ideas for and done for you snail mail. So we talked about snail mail, all research backed based on evidence. That's my background. I'm a research scientist and spent over 20 years doing that. And so I kind of collected all the research that's available about grandparenting, connection, technology, relationships, and put it into this membership.
Oh, well, thank you. And folks, if you're out driving around or you're out for a run or a walk or whatnot, I'm going to put links to all of this into the show notes. So if you didn't have a chance to write it down, don't worry. Just go to the Cool Grandpa podcast, find this show, and then all the links back to Kerry's groups are going to be there. And just to let folks know, I am a member of the Long Distance Grandparent Society, and it is a fantastic group, and I love being a part of it, and I know you will too, so please go check that out and see if it's a good fit for you. Thank you, Kerry, so much for being on the Cool Grandpa podcast. I really appreciated this time.
Thank you again for having me, Greg.
I always love talking with Kerry, and she always has great information and ideas about how grandparents that live at a distance can use the tools and use the world around them to create connection points with their grandchildren. Now, please go over to the Long Distance Grandparent, check out the great work that Kerry has, sign up for the blog, sign up for the information that she has, and then also too, please check out the Long Distance Grandparent Society. I've really profited quite a bit from being a member of that group. They meet several times a month to welcome new members in, to talk about challenges and wins that people are facing. And Kerry has awesome experts that come in and really help educate grandparents on how we can connect and how we can build strong bonds with our grandchildren. So check out the show notes, but you can go to the longdistancegrandparent.com and you can find all the information there. So until next time, remember to stay cool.
Thank you for listening to the Cool Grandpa podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor and share it with a friend. That's the best way you can help us to expand our community, as well as get the news out about how valuable grandpas are in the lives of those kids. If you'd like to leave me a comment or shoot me a potential topic for this podcast, please go to www.cool-grandpa.us. Look for the comments tab, fill it out, hit submit. It's as easy as that. Until next time, remember to stay cool.